Coming up on this week's Weird News, we have stories about adopting dead babies, addicted to Red Bull, a girlfriend's punishment to her boyfriend, and how a South Korean school is having a sleeping contest.
And now, it's time for this week's Weird News with Daniel Bryan.
Hello and welcome back to this week's Weird News, episode 10. This is our first milestone for the podcast, and it's now been 10 weeks ago that the girlfriend decided to leave me home alone while she went away on business to the US, and as a result, this week's Weird News was born. She can now see this as a reason never to leave me unattended again. On last week's show, we had stories about a dog that took charge of a farm vehicle and managed to drive it straight onto a motorway, why one man had a stomach ache and what had to be removed from his stomach in 2 separate operations, what some people have been calling 999 about resulted in wasted time for the emergency services, and finally, one guy's addiction to new boxers. If you missed any of these stories, listen back to our previous episode on the website, on iTunes, YouTube, the Player FM app for Android phones, and any other podcast feed you use. If this is your first week listening to the show, welcome along, and we hope that you like today's weird and wonderful news, and you'll have the opportunity after the show to get in touch with your views and comments on the stories featured this week. This week, being a milestone for us, we've decided to introduce a new section to the show. This section will be titled TWWN Music. The idea is to feature a new upcoming band or artist at the end of the show with a track of their choosing. This may not be every week, but depending on what we find and who wants their song showcased, then it will be here, just for you. You will get the chance to see what you think, and then with links given here and on the website, you can choose to check out more about their songs if you prefer. So keep listening, and at the end of the show, we have our first showcased song by a young artist called Luke Potter. Or, if you're in a band or artist and would like your song played on one of our future shows, get in touch at thisweeksweirdnews@gmail.com. This week, there have been many major headlines around the world. Support aid has made its way to Nepal after the disastrous earthquake that measures 7.8 on the Richter scale. The election here in the UK is just under a week away, and the daily polls are coming in to see slightly ahead of each other. And in Baltimore, in the US, riots have taken place following the death of a black man in police custody. These have been the major headlines of the week, but now it's time for the weird and wonderful news over the last week that you may have missed. Our stories today come from week 18, 2015, or as some may prefer, the 27th of April to the 3rd of May.
Story number 1.
Bernarda Gallardo, to many, leads an unusual lifestyle. She lives in Chile and has made it her mission to adopt babies, but not live ones, dead ones, and give them funerals they deserve. It is believed that in Chile, 10 babies are found dumped where their parents do not want them. This figure, however, is believed to be higher, as a lot of rubbish dumps are not open to the public, and other bodies of babies may never be found. This is believed to be a common thing in Chile, as abortions are disallowed by law. Miss Gallardo originally saw a headline in a newspaper. It read, "They killed and dumped a new baby on the rubbish heap." The story was about a little girl that had been put into a rubbish bag and thrown into a bin. This later was emptied into the local rubbish dump, where it was discovered by recycle workers who were sorting through rubbish. So horrified by this, Miss Gallardo decided she wanted to give the baby a proper burial. At the time, she was in the process of adopting a child herself, and felt a connection with the fact she was saving a child that was also not wanted by their parents.
If you get a baby that's alive, you clothe it, and you feed it, and you put it in a cot. If your baby arrives dead, you give it a coffin, and you give it a decent burial.
She did, however, struggle to get hold of the little girl, so she could give her the funeral that she deserved, and a long bureaucratic battle began. In Chile, if a body is not claimed by a family member, it is classed as human waste, and disposed of with other surgical waste. Doctors first had to prove the baby had lived in order to be registered as a human being, and thus be eligible for a funeral. But still, there was a problem, that she was not a family member, and as a result could not claim the body for a burial. So Miss Gallardo had to adopt the small girl, and decided to call her Aurora. Initially, the judge believed that Miss Gallardo was the baby's biological mother who had dumped her, and that had now felt really guilty for doing so. However, after convincing him this was not the case and she was just trying to be a nice person, the judge let her adopt the baby. The funeral itself for the baby was held, and over 500 people attended after hearing about the story printed in a local paper. Miss Gallardo believes that if you cannot support a baby, or you are subject of rape, that you should not kill the baby, but give them up for adoption. It's now been 12 years since the funeral of Aurora, and since then, Miss Gallardo has adopted and buried 3 more dead children, and is currently trying to adopt another. So initially it seems weird that a woman is adopting dead babies, but she's doing it for a good cause, and trying to publicise to others not to dump their babies in the rubbish, when other families could adopt them and prevent needless death. Following on from last week's episode, episode 9, we've had a comment in from Ernest Sanders in Portland in the US regarding story number 2 last week, which was about an Indian gentleman who swallowed coins, nails and batteries. Ernest says,
I just don't believe your story last week about the man who swallowed the coins, so I just had to Google it. I soon found it was true, and also the pictures of what the doctors found in his stomach. It was so unbelievable that firstly the man managed to swallow such a large object.
Ernest has also attached the photos to his email. I've seen these last week at the time of the story, and did think about putting them on our social media pages, but I decided it may scare a few people off if they open their Facebook feeds and find the inside of a man's stomach glaring back at them. But thanks for sending them in anyway, Ernest.
Story number 2.
We all have our favourite soft drinks. For some, this could be Coke or Pepsi, but for Sarah Witherall, her favourite was the high caffeine energy drink Red Bull. Sarah didn't have the odd can, like most people. She got into the habit of drinking 24 cans of Red Bull each day, and this soon totalled up to a whopping £5,460 every year. She was so addicted to the drink that doctors even warned her, if she stops her high caffeine intake too quickly, she may suffer seizures, as her body is so dependent on it. Sarah became hooked on energy drinks back in 2009 when at university. The following year, her habit peaked during the revision for her final exams for her law degree. She decided she had to do something about her habit, when she found herself not being able to get out of bed unless she knew there was Red Bull in the fridge. She was also having heart palpitations and shakes. She decided to try hypnosis as a means to cure her addiction. She had a 50-minute hypnosis session, and as a result, now claims she has been cured of her addiction. On her own before the hypnosis, she managed to fight her way down to only 8 cans a day. But with the hypnosis, she's managed to cut the further 8 out as well. Caffeine can be lethal in the right dose. Just 5 grams of caffeine can be enough to send you over the edge. With Sarah's addiction, she was having approximately 1.92 grams of caffeine, so not quite near the lethal dose, but definitely going on towards halfway there. There must be a great weight lifted from Sarah, as now her day is not focused on where her next Red Bull is coming from. And indeed, her bank balance must be a lot nicer now. So do you believe in hypnosis, or does it just appear to work and is a placebo? Get in touch with your views.
Red Bull gives you
Heart palpitations. You can become part of this week's Weird News. This section of the show can be dedicated to you. Sponsor the show and we can fill this section with a tailor-made advert just for you. Reach your audience in a different way with the power of a podcast. We are open to your ideas, so get in touch at thisweeksweirdnews@gmail.com. Get on board with us now as our listeners grow and we can reach more and more subscribers together.
Story number 3.
When a boyfriend lies to you, do you cry and dump him, accept his apology, or take your revenge? Well, this week, one girl decided to forgive her boyfriend, but only if he let her have her revenge first. So, how to humiliate him enough so he feels bad for what he did? Well, this week, one girl found the perfect solution. She made him stand out in public, wearing a sandwich board. On this sandwich board, it read, "I lied to my partner. I broke promises. I am a hypocrite. If you have ever been hurt by a man, please humiliate and abuse me." And next to him, in his sandwich board, was a carton of eggs, and his girlfriend was inviting other girls who had suffered the same torture at the hands of a man that she had to take their revenge on him. From the fact that he stood in the picture next to an empty egg carton box means there are plenty of girls out there who have been lied to too. For him to do this, he must really love the girl. The looks, the stares, the social media comments that he must have been featured in, and all that just to get forgiveness from her. I'm sure whatever he did he's very sorry for, and he won't be doing it again in a hurry. During which time, a journalist turns up and films the event. He questions some of the women as to why they think it's acceptable to chuck eggs at him. When the journalist, however, suggests that this is wrong, and if it was the other way around and it was a girl being pelted with eggs, they disagree and they become defensive.
What makes you guys think this is appropriate?
What makes you think it's not?
Well, because actually if the gender roles were reversed right now, this would be one of the most things I've ever seen.
They, however, think it's perfectly fine, as they are subject to abuse from men all the time, and they have to tolerate it. But this is their way of getting revenge.
It's like, you have to put up with, especially as a woman, by men, all the time.
Okay.
Every day in your life.
Yep, that's true.
And mostly, there's absolutely no redress. Ever. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility. Even the humiliation...
100% of the time?
Most of the time.
Okay.
98% of the time.
Right.
So what do you think? Is it right for women to humiliate men in this way? Or was it a fitting punishment? If it's the other way around, would you have stopped it? Get in touch with your views.
Story number 4.
In South Korea this week, they've been holding sleep contests. But why? Well, to encourage the students to rest while weary from long revision days. The students all settled down for a nap outside on the lawn at their women's university. They all wore eye masks to block out the light and were given blankets and pillows to aid their sleep. So a nice, relaxing, peaceful afternoon for them, you'd think. Well, not quite. They were all given only 5 minutes to fall asleep before the organisers started waking them up again. But how do you know someone is asleep? Well, they conducted a very scientific set of tests to tell. These tests included blowing into students' faces and telling jokes to see if anyone laughed. After the 5 minutes, they were woken up. You wouldn't think it was worth bothering, and I know, for myself, it takes me far longer than 5 minutes to fall asleep. But the organisers believe this event had a dual purpose. They say that they are attempting to suggest that rather than go out to clubs after midterms, the students take rest and heal their mind and body. But they also wanted to raise awareness over sleep deprivation. Statistics show that 13 to 24-year-olds for less than 6 hours a night in 3 out of 10 nights. Slightly ironically, all the students that took part in the event were given an energy drink and chocolate as a reward. 3 top winners were given cash prizes, and the person in third was awarded a pillow. So what do you think? When you're at university or college, would you like a chance to just go for a nap? Or do you not think it's worth it if it was only for 5 minutes? Get in touch with your views. And there we have it. This week's 4 news stories, and we hope you enjoyed them enough to tell your friends and to get in contact with the show like Ernest did, with your views and comments. Send comments to
thisweeksweirdnews@gmail.com.
or comment on our social media pages.
Comment on Facebook at facebook.com/thisweeksweirdnews or on Twitter @weeksweirdnews.
Or you can go to our website, where you'll find all these contact details and more about the show. To do this, go to
www.thisweeksweirdnews.com.
And now it's time for our new feature on the show, where we're going to showcase this week's upcoming talent in the music world. This week, to kick off, we have a homegrown talent from here in the UK. His name is Luke Potter, and he's becoming increasingly popular on the music scene. With some big name producers getting behind him, and being managed by the same group as Justin Timberlake, Akon, and David Archuleta, he is sure to make a big splash in the very near future. Luke's first album, titled So Sugar, is out now, and all the tracks are written by himself and some co-written with others. It's available to download on iTunes, Amazon, and other major download providers. Or, if you're a little old school and would prefer a physical copy, then these can be purchased on Amazon in the US and from his website at www.lukepottermusic.com for everywhere else around the world. The track being featured today is the title track of the album called So Sugar, and I really hope you enjoy it. I warn you, it's one of those catchy ones. Check out our website at www.thisweeksweirdnews.com and click on the TWWN music tab to see the music video and all the links to find out more about Luke. Check out Luke's website and subscribe to him on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with more weird and wonderful news from around the world. Now, to play us out, it's Luke Potter with So Sugar.
I kinda like ya. It's you. You don't have a clue. And I try to keep it secret, but here goes nothing. It's win or lose. So this is it, and I can't wait. I'm sorry that you found out this way. That you are like honey, and I'm stuck to you. I hope this doesn't sound cliche. There's something that I need to say. That you're so sugar. You're so sugar, sugar. Yeah, I gotta wonder if your heart's racing just as hard as mine. And you are like my favorite love song. I can't turn you off even if I tried. So this is it, and I can't wait. I'm sorry that you found out this way. That you are like honey, and I'm stuck to you. I hope this doesn't sound cliche. There's something that I need to say. That you're so sugar. You're so sugar, sugar. You can break my heart. You can walk away. At least I told the truth. There's nothing more to say. You are like honey, and I'm stuck to you. I hope this doesn't sound cliche. There's something that I need to say. That you're so sugar. So sugar, sugar. You're so sugar. Hey! You're so sugar. You're so sugar, sugar.
Join us next time for more weird and wonderful news from around the world. Only on This Week's Weird News. Goodbye.